Good morning, everyone, dear authors and invited guests. Welcome to Technical Session 3C. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 6th International Conference on ICT for Sustainable Development through Zoom on behalf of ICT 4SD 2021 and Global Knowledge Research Foundation. We are thankful to everyone present on this platform to go along with us digitally for the conference in these unpredictable circumstances of COVID-19 and making this conference more productive. We hope you will enjoy the 2 days of the knowledgeable interactive sessions. Just before we get started, I would like to introduce the session chair for today. We have Naresh Gardas and Priyanka Sharma with us. Welcome, ma'am. Just a minute. Priyanka Sharma is a professor in IT department and director in research and development at Rashtriya Raksha University. She is having more than 21 years of experience in teaching, admin and research at PG level. Her research guidance includes MTech, MSc, MPL, internships projects. Welcome, ma'am. Naresh Gardas sir has been involved for more than 25 years in the fields of cybersecurity, information extraction and information retrieval. In his role and capacity of program coordinator of Advanced Computing Training School, he has to create successful implementation of projects like university collaborations and training. Mr. Gardas holds a MTech in Computer Science from JNTU University and has to credit 85 technical papers that have been published in national and international journals and conference proceedings. We welcome you as well, sir. So we'll start. And also I would like to remind the presenters, you will have 8 minutes for the presentation and 2 minutes for question and answers. On 7 minutes, I will be raising a gentle reminder. So please keep that in mind as we have parallel sessions going on continuously. So please take care of the time frame and follow accordingly. So we'll start with the first presentation. So we have Madhura here. Madhura?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
I have asked you to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Madhura, you can start with the presentation. You can share your screen.
Can you please confirm if you're able to see my screen?
I'm able to hear you and I'm able to view your screen as well.
Yeah.
Thanks. Please take care about the time frame. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good morning, all. I'm Madhura Potnis, a student of Cummins College of Engineering. Our paper is titled Hybrid Intrusion Detection System for Detecting DDoS Attacks on Web Applications Using Machine Learning. Before starting with the presentation, I'd like to thank the conference organizers for giving us the opportunity to present our paper today. These are the contents that I'll be going over in my presentation. As we all know, that digital technology has progressed at a very fast pace, but with it comes a rising concern for security. The recent pandemic has forced everyone to go virtual, making the systems even more vulnerable to attacks than before. Distributed denial of service attack is the most unpredictable attack, where multiple hosts are controlled by an attacker machine to carry out an attack against a system. An intrusion detection system can play a significant role in detecting such security threats. With the use of microservices and smart devices, DDoS attacks have increased as well. Machine learning algorithms are an effective way for detecting DDoS attacks. Our aim was to develop a hybrid web intrusion detection system which leverages machine learning algorithms to detect both known and unknown variants of DDoS attacks on web applications with more efficiency and higher accuracy than prevalent systems. While conducting our literature survey, we considered the following points, namely the types of DDoS attacks, the detection techniques, the machine learning algorithms which have been used currently, and the types of intrusion detection systems. This is a very brief summary of some of the important papers that we referred to during our literature survey. After conducting the literature survey, we identified a few gaps. Hybrid intrusion detection system has not been developed for the web application environment specifically. There has not been much emphasis on identifying unknown variants of known attacks. Combining advantages of different machine learning algorithms using ensemble learning technique is an area on which further work can be done. The proposed hybrid web intrusion detection system takes into consideration these shortcomings and aims to overcome them. Our proposed system is a hybrid combination of anomaly as well as signature detection. The system operates in the web environment, therefore it detects HTTP attacks. It detects HTTP attacks like HTTP slow read, HTTP slow body, HTTP slow range, HTTP slow headers, and HTTP flood. This is the system architecture for implementing the proposed system. As you can see in the figure, the system is divided into 4 tiers. Coming to the dataset which we used for building the ML models, the dataset comprises of benign behavior as well as details of malware attacks for the web app environment. It contains attacks as mentioned before, like HTTP flood, HTTP slow read, etc. In all, it contains 74 network flow features. Some of the network parameters from the dataset are IP protocol number, IP packet size, TCP data offset, TCP window size, etc. To pre-process our data set, we use primarily 3 techniques. First, we removed all missing and NaN values from our data set. We used label encoding for encoding the attack labels, and to overcome the class imbalance present in the data set, we used an oversampling technique known as SMOTE, which is synthetic minority oversampling technique. As you can show in the figure, the data set before using SMOTE had a class imbalance, and after SMOTE, all classes had equal number of instances. The next important part was feature selection. For our anomaly detection module, we used a feature selection technique called as recursive feature elimination with cross-validation. In that, we use decision tree as the base estimator, and the optimal number of features selected using this method were 41. For the signature detection module, we again used the same technique, and here the optimal number of features selected were 20. Our anomaly detection module detects normal traffic and attack traffic instances. So essentially, we needed a binary classification algorithm here. We considered many algorithms like k-means, dbscan, BERT, logistic regression, and random forest. Out of this, we found that logistic regression was the highest performing model with an accuracy of 98%, a precision value of 97.63%, and a false negative rate of 3.12%. After an anomaly has been detected, the sample instances are passed on to our signature detection module, which classifies the instance as a particular type of attack. We used ensemble learning technique to combine advantages of various classifiers. We used 4 base classifiers in our ensemble, namely random forest, decision tree, gradient boosting, and adder boost. We used a soft voting technique to combine results of all individual classifiers. In the first table, the results for base classifiers are given, out of which gradient boost had the highest values for accuracy, precision, recall, and false negative rate. When we combined all 4 classifiers into an ensemble, we found greater value of metrics for the ensemble learning model, thus justifying that we need an ensemble learning model to combine the advantages of each algorithm. We also tested our system for the detection of unknown variants of known attacks. For any system in practical life, it is not possible to detect an attack which is vastly different from the one it has been trained on, but it should ideally be able to detect any unknown variants of known attacks, that is the attacks on which it has been trained on. So we trained our machine learning models on instances of HTTP flood, HTTP slow body, HTTP slow header, and HTTP slow range attacks. And then we tested the system on an instance of HTTP slow read attack. The results for the detection of this unknown attack are summarized in the table below. We found that it was able to detect the unknown variant with considerable accuracy.
Dear presenter, you just have 1 minute left.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be wrapping up my presentation. To conclude, we presented a hybrid web intrusion detection system that detects DDoS attacks on web applications. For our anomaly detection model, we use binary classification algorithm, and our signature detection module was developed by creating an ensemble of multiple multi-class algorithms. The key thought behind our system was to utilize ensemble learning to accumulate the benefits of various algorithms and also test the system on unknown variants of known attacks. The future scope includes enhancing the training data quality, optimizing process of feature extraction, and extending the system to develop an intrusion prevention system to mitigate the attacks detected by the hybrid intrusion detection system. These are the primary references that we used. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions from our session chairs?
Hello. How you will measure the accuracy and consistency of the model which you have proposed?
For now, we have tested the results on a data set, but we can do that by simulating the attacks mentioned in our system. So we can simulate it using different tools like Slow Loris or Hulk or HPing 3, and that we can generate a data set from that and evaluate the performance of the system based on that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Madhura.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So we have our next presenter, Sunil Sharma.
Yes, ma'am.
Sunil Sharma, yes, you're here, right? Yes.
Yes,
He will be presenting his paper on fairness, accountability, sustainability, transparency of artificial intelligence in terms of hospitality industry. Thank you. You can start with your screen.
First of all, I would like to thank all the members who have given an opportunity to present this paper during this pandemic.
Your screen is not visible. Please start sharing
Yes,
your
I'm
screen.
sharing it right now.
Yeah. And please keep in mind about the time frame as well. Yeah.
Okay.
You just have 8 minutes.
Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible. You can start.
Very good morning to everyone. The paper topic is fairness, accountability, sustainability, and transparency. It includes the FAST principle, which is basically used with the artificial intelligence. And here we are using this FAST principle in the hospitality industry. I am Sunil Sharma with the co-authors Dr. Yashwant Singh Rawal, Dr. Sanjay Pal, and Dr. Rajesh Lani presenting this paper. The contents of this paper is objective evaluation of the AI, introduction of the FAST principles, AI ethics, basic principles of the FAST tracks, AI in the hospitality industries, impacts of and role of the AI in hospitality industries. After that, advantages and the disadvantages of the AI. So as we know that we are living, we are face a pandemic right now. We are facing a pandemic conditions right now, and the major impact of this pandemic is seen in the hospitality industry. It is impacting each and every field, but since the topic is for related to the hospitality industry, that I am emphasizing related to the hospitality industries. So this objective of this paper is to select the ethics of the AI and how we can use this AI ethics to improve the hospitality industries. Keeping into mind, we all have come across a vibrant technology which is known as the artificial intelligence, and this paper is emphasis on the fast track principle, AI ethics, impacts, and role of the AI. First of all, we would like to know that what is the basic meaning of artificial intelligence, how it came into considerations. Artificial intelligence was just come into 1950s with the terms John McCarthy. He was the invention of the artificial intelligence, and he recently used these terms. He was whenever we were performing some experiments in the American computer scientist lab. At that time, he coined this term, which is known as the artificial intelligence. This is simply a science and engineering of the designing intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer programs. Artificial intelligence is playing a significant role in the domain of spreading and widely across all the globe. It includes each and every domains. If we are talking about the astronomy, healthcare, transportation, agriculture, education, e-com, entertainment, robotics, automotive industries, social media, data security and services, finance, and gaming. Each and every domain of the life is covered by the artificial intelligence nowadays. And we are happy, we are fortunate enough to use these technologies in every domain. If you are talking about the astronomy, we can use the very complex programs, very complex universe programs with the help of the AI technology. In terms of healthcare, we are using since last 5 to 10 years the AI providing very benefits to the hospitality industry. We have recently heard that a robotic robot perform a heart surgery. This is nothing but applications of the AI. It can help doctors with the diagnosis and can perform the patients in the worst conditions, which can be hospitalized and during the emergency conditions. If you are talking about the gaming, AI, with the help of the AI, we can play strategic games like chess and etc. Finance, AI is also providing very well conditions like in terms of the implementing automations, chatbots, adaptive intelligence, algorithm trading, and machine learning into the financial processes. Data security is also a very crucial role, very crucial topic, and AI is playing very good role in solving data security problems. We can use the AI with the help of the more safe and secure. For example, with the use of the AEG boards and AI Square platform, we can help to reduce the cyber attacks and we can perform in a better manner. AI in social media, we all are using social media, and with the help of the AI, we can organize all and manage all the things. For example, AI can analyze lots of the data. If we are using the hashtags, we are advising the different users, we can collect the different information from the different segments. We can do it in very well manner. AI in travel and transport, as the topic suggests, is AI in public transport can be used for the demanding and traveling industries. It is capable for doing various travel-related operations such as making the travel arrangements, suggestions to the hotels, flights, and best routes to the customers. It also providing industries are very AI-powered chatbots, and these chatbots are providing very well benefits to the customers. And these are completely dedicated to the customers, and they are performing better and fast performances. AI in automotive industries providing very benefits to the customers. We recently know that Tesla is providing very equipped with automotive vehicles, and all these happens with the help of the AI. AI in robotics, artificial intelligence created intelligent robots which can perform the task with their own experiences without a pre-program. Human robots is also playing a very significant role. There is an example of the Erica and the Sophia in terms of the AI robots. And the recent example of this AI robot can be shown in the Tokyo Olympics, where Japanese produce their AI robots. AI in entertainment, we are currently using some AI-based applications in our daily life with the help of some entertainment services such as the Netflix and Amazon. Agriculture, if you are talking about the agriculture, there is an immense field in the agriculture. Agriculture is applying AI, agriculture robotics, solid and crop monitoring, predictive analysis. All these can be done with the help of the AI. In e-commerce, we are using e-commerce nowadays, and we are fortunate enough that we are able to use this e-commerce service during these conditions also. It is providing very good benefits in the e-commerce, helping shoppers to discover associated products and recommended sites, colors, and even branded sources. In education, this is the most important. We are talking to each other.
Dear presenter, sorry for the interruption. You just have 2 minutes left.
Just okay. AI can automate trading, and so these are some advantage applications where we can use the AI. AI ethics is a set of values and principles and techniques that utilizes generally established values of accurate and inaccurate to direct ethical behavior in the expansion and use of the AI technology. And with this AI ethics, we can associate this AI ethics with the help of the OECD, which is an organization of the Economic Cooperation and Development. With the help of these considerations, we can use AI ethics so that we can have a better advancements, and we need to prefer the securities of the customers. If you are talking about the biasing of the AICs, these are the some conditions where we need to be biased about, we need to be biased for these conditions: denial of the individual autonomy, and non-transparent, unexplained, and many machine learning models generate the results by operating the high dimensional correlation. So with all these conditions, to overcome all these conditions, we have to use the fast-track principle. Fast-track principle is simply consisting of fairness, accountability, and sustainability and transparency. Fairness is simply, we can say that whatever we are using, it should be a completely fairness, and its role is to play an essential to the customer behavior. Characterization of the different designs and use of AI can be used with the help of the accountability, fairness. If you are talking about the accountability, it needs to be more accountable. Whatever the conditions have been faced with the help of either it could be good or bad, it must be accountable with the AI. Sustainability, it must be an complete team responsibility, that it should be a sustainable. AI means a massive technological boost to sustainable priorities. And transparency is a property of a system that makes it possible to get certain information regarding the system in a impact of the roles and AI in hospital industries. By means of the artificial intelligence potential for the humanizing and characterizing the almost eternal, which is ranging from the improved personalized to the customized proposal, well-defined customer services can be used with the AI. AI in hospital industries can be followed
Sorry to
in this
interrupt
manner.
you. We have parallel session, so please conclude your presentation.
I'm just concluding it right now, sir. So these are the various segments, various roles how the artificial intelligence is providing benefits to the hospitality, starting from the planning to a journey to up to the end of the journey. We can use each and everything with the help of the AI, like discovering and planning, booking, complementing, experiencing, reflecting, searching, etc. And these are some technologies we are using. We can use the chatbots, we can use the personalization, we can use the organization programs, we can use it for becoming interactions, updation and maintenance can be done with the help of the AI. Information competitive intelligence is also provided with the help of the AI technologies. It includes basically automatic data processing, which is basically including for the human resources and management software. If we are talking about the applications of AI in hospital industry, hotels, so most of the hotels are using Paybot is the first AI dedicated robots which is used in the hospital industry. After the Grand Hilton Hotel is also using a chatbots, a robot which is known as the Connie. QuickText is also AI-based technologies. Edge Operator is also AI-based technology, which is all these technologies are using in the hospital industry right now. Zendesk and the Quasars are the basic robots or the AI-based technologies which are utilizing in the hotel industry. These are some advantages and disadvantages. Reduce human error, helping using repetitive works, provide digital assistance, faster and more accurate decisions. If you are talking about the disadvantages, also overcome that to talent, lack of practice, products, and the potential conditions. Conclusions: AI ethics have been prominently used as we need to wait to see how these can be involved in the AI adapted fields. Hotelier must ensure espouse the inventive synthesis of AI and focused fused services devices to renovate recipes of the refined contemporary services. AI, along with its ethics and principles, can enhance the outcomes in each industry. If it comes to hospitality, then it plays a significant role to provide the unmatched customer services and provide proper hygienic conditions during the worst conditions like COVID-19. Some references I use. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Sunil Sharma. Thank you so much for the presentation. Any questions from our session chairs? Thank you. You can stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
So we have our next presenter, Zareen Tasneem.
Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yeah, Zareen Tasneem. She would be presenting her paper on online food delivery system, an empirical study of the polarization of potential consumers and investigating the association between the determinants molding the polarization during COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, you can start sharing your screen. Yes, Zareen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Hello?
I am. Yes, yes, it's visible and you're audible as well. You can start.
Hello, everyone. It's Zareen here. And first of all, I'd like to thank you, the ICT 4SD team, to let me present my work. And I'm going to tell our research work on online food delivery system. Here's the outline of of the way flow I am going to present our work. At first, I'm going to discuss the research objective and the literature review we have done, and then the methodology. And after that, I am going to discuss about some generalized solution and the future work we have decided to do. Here is the research objective. I would like to mention that during the COVID-19 situation, a lot of factors and a lot of impact are there for in consumers' life, and basically their prospects are changing because the COVID-19 has influenced us both economically and also from financial perspective. So we would like to investigate the potential consumer clusters that are present there during the COVID-19 situation. We would like to we also analyze the factors that are basically acting as a predicator of this customer attitude, and we also try to determine that the relationship or association between these possible factors that altogether act on consumers attitude. So here are the three different sorts of body of research research activities we have gone through before we started our journey on this particular topic. We have found out that the literature or the research body present on this particular topic are basically came from three different particular sorts of studies. One is one that is tried to analyze this kind of a customer attitude from mobile food ordering prospects, and they have identified that e-trust, time, and ES expectancy, hedonic motivation, which is basically the urgence of a specific individual to have some specific kind of food in a sort of time. The rating system, this four factors basically basically impact the consumer's attitude toward online food delivery system. We also have gone through some research bodies that actually tried to determine consumers attitude from e-commerce perspective, and they have indicated that price, value, safety issues, and advertisements also influence the consumer's mind of using online systems. We have also analyzed as this kind of systems from TAM perspective, which is basically tried to determine consumers attitude from total addressable markets, and they have shown us that use and usefulness, innovativeness, trust, and external influence like socially how much that particular online food delivery system is popular is also predicating factors of consumers attitude. So this three different type of sorts of system basically try to determine these three things, that is trust, how much the consumers trust that particular system, satisfaction, how much satisfied a consumer is, and the use intention, whether or not this particular consumer after using this system once, they likely to come back to the system. And here are the methodologies. We basically collected the after research body. We find out that this certain topic needs attention, and we collected data, visualized data by basic means, and we also in order to determine which algorithm we can use to find out the insights from the data, and then we analyze the result. So for data collection, we actually formed a questionnaire that consists of 26 questions, and we got 158 responses, and based on which we tried to find out our insights. At first, as the collected data was very raw and wasn't actually fit for applying any kind of algorithm to find out insights, we cleaned the data. We have basically two different sorts of data. One is source of data in order to in order to clean or shape the quantitative data, we used min max scalar and a standard scalar. We used two different sorts of scalar because those features or factors that basically need attention that basically needed transformation to fit into a proper range. We used min max scalar, and also those particular features that actually needed to be scaled in a unit variance, we used a standard scalar for them. And for categorical features, those that are of ordinal data, we used a label encoding, because label encoding is best for ordinal data transfer ordinal data encoding. And we used one hot encoding for nominal data, nominal categorical data, in order to convert the categorical data into quantitative means, so that a machine learning algorithm can be applied. But there is a basic disadvantage of one hot encoding. It comes with the curse of dimensionality, as it increases the dimension to a huge extent. Here are some visualization, basic visualization. As we can see that there are equal proportion of people trusting and distrusting the online food delivery system. We can see a bias of men and over females in using online food delivery apps. We can also see that people who lives with family are more inclined to use online food delivery system.
Last 2 minutes.
Systems, I can discuss them shortly after that. And there are some possible algorithms that we used to describe our to analyze our. We used PCA for dimensionality reduction as online one hot encoding, basically increase the data dimension. And then we used K-means algorithm to find out the possible clusters. And elbow function and silhouette function are used to find the optimal number of clusters. And then we used chi-square test to find out the relationship between the features. These are the three possible clusters of our data set. And we have seen that for k is equal to 3, we have seen a clear elbow for k is equal to 3 that indicated that we have 3 optimal number of clusters. And this is Silhouette approach that actually confirmed the result outcome of elbow function, and because we can see a clear peak for k is equal to 3 from Silhouette approach. So we have basically identified that what are the features that are shaping consumers' attitude, but are there any kind of relationship between them? So in order to find out this relationship, we used a chi-square hypothesis testing. We at first decided that there is no relationship, that is instance for null hypothesis, and the alternative one is that there is a relationship, and here is the outcome of chi-square hypothesis testing. As we can see that trust basically associated with reuse intention. Those people that are likely to trust online food delivery system after one-time use, they are basically going to reuse it again. We can also see a positive relationship between trust and payment method. There is a dependency, and there are also several factors that are not dependent with each other. They are out of the reach from each other, and they influence consumers' attitude individually, not associated with any other features. So we basically we can give a generalized solution from that. If online food delivery system follow this particular relationship, they can find out that what are the motivating factors that they need to change to satisfy online consumers during this COVID-19 pandemic. And these are some future works we are going to do on this project. Whatever we have done, it is basically in COVID-19 situation. We are going to compare that with normal situation, and we are also going to improve the data representativeness. We also would like to collect some qualitative data to validate the outcome of quantitative research. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you for your presentation, Zareen. Any questions from our session chairs? Okay, thank you, Zareen, for your presentation. You can stop
Thank
sharing
you.
your screen. Thank you. So we have our next presenter, Dharman Tikari. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, madam. Can you hear me?
Yes. She will be
I-
presenting on graph-based transductive label propagation approach for multi-label classification. Welcome, ma'am. You can start presenting your presentation.
Yes, I'll be sharing my screen. Give me a
Yes.
moment. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Is my screen is visible?
Yep, yes, it is visible.
Yeah, very good morning to one and all. I, Shweta Dharmadikari, along with my co-author Seema Chandak and Rashna Chajed from Department of IT PICT, are feeling very pleased to present our research paper on graph-based transductive label propagation approach for multi-label classification at this onset of 6th International Conference on ICT for Sustainable Development. In order to present and elaborate our work, we will be covering this agenda. Our abstract is illustrating our efforts that we are putting it together in order to utilize graph-based label propagation approach in multi-label setting for specifically text classification application, but thereby we are achieving the scalability and holistic nature in a classification process. And for that, we are mainly having as a baseline is multi-label text classification and semi-supervised learning. Basically, in context of text classification, the general assumption is that text sample under consideration is always associated with one and only one target class or category label. However, in multi-label text classification, the text class sample may belong to group of target class or category labels, and it is encompassing wider range of applications. Maybe it is email classification, wherein one email may belong to multiple categories, or the medical record classification based on symptom descriptions, classifying movies into one or additional genres, or categorizing business on Yelp or Google News, and a lot many. So semi-supervised learning is contributing to this task of multi-label text classification by utilizing knowledge of both priorly available labeled as well as unlabeled data. So this figure itself is highlighting that how one raw text data could be associated with more than one category at a time. The literature that we reviewed mainly emphasizing lot many de facto standard methods which are addressing good challenges of ambiguity that is arising in while associating or selecting more than one category for given text sample. But however, we found that these all methods may be addressing one point, but they are lacking in another point. And as a whole, not a single method is addressing the challenges that is we have confined in the form of gap analysis, that utilization of unlabeled data, at the same time extraction of relevant features from huge feature set, then modeling large number of label cardinality, as well as modeling the correlation or correlativity existing among the labels, because here in the label and group of label is also carrying the important factor being associated with one single document instance, and issue of scalability and reliability. So in order to cope up with all these things into under one roof, we have tried to devise with our method of graph-based transductive label propagation approach. So in order to achieve this better result, we have adapted the semi-supervised approach wherein our data set constituting of some of the label sample and many of the samples are unlabeled, and we are employing both the supervised as well as unsupervised way in order to achieve the result. So this semi-supervised way is combining this both the things by means of graph representation. So that way we are adapting this methodology wherein we are firstly emphasizing on no matter the text samples or label sample may be small or large, extract the most relevant features out of it, then sparsify, that means more find out the more relevant map out of it, then perform the transductive learning, and then perform the experimentation and analysis over it. So we will be covering them one by one. In a feature extraction step, we are mainly emphasizing on the representation of a document collection as well as label correction. So that is through the steps wherein the documents are getting transformed into the vector space representation that may be referring as the term document matrix. For this document collection and label set collection, once we are transforming it into the matrice form, then we are pre-processing this text and label collection for constructing their separate representative data and label matrix. However, for the large collection of labels as well as text data, this term document or label document pair could be huge enough. So we are emphasizing on reducing them further to the lower dimension by applying multiplicative update method of non-negative matrix formulation, and thereby we are achieving the reduced feature matrix form for both the data as well as label matrix, and that will be serving as our next input to the next phase, that is graph construction through sparsification map preparation. So graph construction is nothing but that approach wherein we are utilizing the labeled as well as unlabeled data by representing the association between them. So the reduced feature and label vectors are utilized to construct fully connected feature and label graphs by estimating the affinity between each pair of feature vectors and label vectors. So the diagram is highlighting them. We do have this matrices of this label set as well as the document set with us, and we are finding out the affinity between every pair of a document as well as every pair of labels as well as between the document and a label, and we are keep on constructing the graph out of it. That is the nodes, if the nodes are having the connecting edge between them, then that is representing some sort of affinity, and that affinity score we are computing by using either cosine or similar sort of similarity measure. So graph is getting represented. So it's but obvious that for a larger document collection, larger label collection, the graph will be more and more dense, and the major theme will be to represent our text data, label data that is available with us in the form of this feature as a graph, assign labels to unlabeled set of data points using association attributes of graph nodes, and then these labels are propagated to the further unlabeled points throughout. So, what treatment we should give to this densely available data, and for that sake we are employing this step number 2, wherein we are getting the sparse representation by applying balance matching algorithm. So on this fully connected graph. So in this balance matching algorithm, we are removing all those
Dear
edges.
presenter,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt you, but we have last 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So we are removing all these edges which are no longer serving and having great affinity score, and this is cumulatively represented in the form of this pseudocode. And in a further transductive learning step, we are predicting the label set associated with the remaining document collection available in the form of feature vector, and for that we are using this eligibility score of these propagated labels in the form available in the form of energy convergence function. We are testing our approach on this Enron, Eurovac and Reuters data set and comparing it against some of the existing state of art definition which we have derived from multi-level extension of Weka and Mulan libraries, and this data set range is varying from very low to high scale, and we have computed the accuracy, and we found that somewhere our approach is giving us some reliable and good result because we are cross-checking and validating this label set prior to assigning it to the unlabeled instance. But however, even though we are getting its scalability and holistic approach, we are facing some of the limitations of time, space and speed because of increasing collection of document and label set is creating a great feature vector space, and it needs time to construct the fully dense graph, then analyze it and remove those which is unwanted using balance matching algorithm. And we are trying it to cope up in our future scope by including hybrid text representation scheme by making it more generalized by introducing inductive approach and incremental learning approach. So it may be served in the future as a game changer for attempts in performance improvement as well as expand its applicability. So overall, this paper is presenting our attempts to improve overall scope and learnability of multi-level text classifier by employing transdictive learning based setup. So these are some of the de facto references that we are adapting at our end in order to implement and test the applicability. So this is what our overall presentation of paper is. If there are any questions, please let me know. Let us know.
Thank you, presenter, for your present.
Okay. Stop. Should I stop sharing?
Yeah, yes, you can. Sir, you have any questions to presenter for?
No, thank you. Good, good.
Okay, so let's start off with our next presenter is Chem Moinuddin, ICT, and her paper, and his paper title is ICT-enabled cloud cafeteria of corporate companies with a customized app for employees' expediency.
Good morning. My name is H.M. Moinuddin, Assistant Professor from Wales Institute of Science, Technology and Advanced Studies. And today I am going to present a paper, ICT-enabled cloud cafeteria of corporate companies with a customized app for employees' experience. So the objective of this study is, to know the benefits of using an app in multinational companies, because the growth of multinational companies have created a platform for cloud cafeteria, which is now recently started by the digitalization of the workplaces through mobile applications using ICT and IoT. For making this food preparations before the meal, uh, employees of corporate companies can personalize and place their order through mobile apps. So this have started like hunger box have come into the recent multinational companies for giving this facility, and this lessens the turnaround time for the decided food choice, and furthermore decreases the heat on the cafeteria, particularly during top long periods, especially for dining. Some of the multinational enterprises provides mostly Wi-Fi, so that helps the employees to place their order using mobile app rather than going directly to the cafeteria, standing on queues for getting their foods before going to the cafeteria, or they can also receive the food to their desk. So this is the facility of this mobile apps, the cloud cafeteria mobile apps. And now the objective of the study is like mobile app on providing the convenience for the corporate companies employees during the lunch and dinner sessions. Secondly, focused on the association of ICT with mobile app. The food vendors has an arrangement of serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner by setting them in discrete preparation on requirement, with food orders placed by employees of corporate companies using mobile app. Nevertheless, the cloud cafeterias are located at the companies. The employees can collect food and beverages from food counters and move towards the table to take as a lot of nourishment as they wish. The center of this cloud cafeteria is through connecting the food vendors with a mobile application. And now the materials and methods we adopted is using a quantitative questionnaire. We have collected the data from the employees with the help of a questionnaire. And this questionnaire was circulated randomly. Around 250 questionnaires were circulated. Out of that, 240 questionnaires were used to complete the study. Proper questionnaires. This correlation is done with the help of SPSS version 21 to identify the variables relationship. A linear regression was also done to establish the significance of correlation coefficient. Next. Now, in this correlation, we can see the association, the relationship between these variables, like comfort on cafeteria with that food order app, or food order cancellation, or accuracy on the food order they have received, or order from the desk, the facility. So it is, moreover, you can see the significance. The higher significance you can see 0.952 for order from app. So through cloud comfort on cafeteria service, this provide really a comfort for the employees of multinational companies. And then there is, we also want to see there is a significance showing that a positive relationship between all this variable, but we just wanted to know the strength of the relationship, so between this variables. So you can see a stronger relationship for comfort from cloud coefficient with the variable having a value R is equal to 9.2, as I said, with the significance value of P is equal to 0.00. The relationship also like comfort for cloud cafeteria with network security is 0.780, because mainly when they order the food, they use payment applications, all of that. So security is most important factor here. The relationship between the orders desk with food order with mobile apps seems to have R is equal to E 0.839. So that is a significant value here. And the employees of cloud cafeteria company also convenient in cancelling the food orders. It is that, yes, they have cancelled, the significant value is 0.648. It shows there is most of the employees goes for food cancellation. That the reason we have identified, they cannot able to personalize the food, because when you directly go to a restaurant or cafeteria, you can ask according to your wish, like to reduce the oil, or to raise for less salt, no ginger, no garlic, like that, which they don't have that option in this menu. So that is the one thing we have identified during this study. Now this regression we have then after that correlation, we have also done a regression. In that we also have noticed that all the values are significant, whereas for network security many find it little hesitate to order because of that network security. And then other than that cancellation, all other things are significant. The values you can see here is beta value is 0.69 for order from app. And also we can see food order cancellation 0.123. Next, for instance, the network security is not much related with the comfort on cafeteria, with the value beta 0.36, 0.2 significant value of 0.226, which is not association, not having a variance in association. So, but there is a stronger significance for order from app with comfort from cloud cafeteria through this value 0.759 with a significant value of P is equal to 0.000. So this is noticeable variance for order from desk to cloud cafeteria by having a beta value of 0.05 and significant value 0.201. This determined the employees could place their order before reaching the company or from cafeteria. So this is the one thing. And then the scalar response we can see there's plotted dots. There is for accuracy on the food what they have received is most significant, we can see here. And there's a good association, whereas for the comfort order from app also we have little similar response in scalar response. Now let me conclude this walk. This research substantiates the positive role of ICT in corporate companies with the practice of cloud cafeteria using mobile app. It is observed that the comfort from cloud cafeteria is obtained through the usage of mobile app with a stronger relationship between these two variables through a coefficient of 0.952, and the correlation is significant with the value with the cloud for cloud cafeteria at 0.01 level. The linear regression results evidences the users has ease on canceling their food orders. There are many food orders cancellations are taking place as there is no hyper personalization on food. So that could be implemented. We have suggested. In addition, the accuracy on food received with the order placed by mobile app in a contemporary scenario, this outcome reveals a greater significance on practicing an Android mobile phone, laptop, and desktop to access the cloud cafeteria app at an international company. In future, cloud cafeteria will be a best source for providing food and safer environment, and as places by by reducing the gatherings, especially during this COVID situation. Thank you, all of you.
Have you shown your model or your work to the stakeholders?
Yes.
To
Yes.
whom?
Yes, madam.
Have you shown your work to the stakeholders, say, for example, who will be using it?
No, we actually we got the permission from the company, and we went with the proceeding using a Google link. We have given Google form link to give their views on using this cloud cafeteria mobile app. And finally we come to know that most of the employees are really satisfied with this app, and uh, the thing is to be like the hyper personalization is required that we convey to them. So this was the employees wish on using this. Other than that, it is really useful for employees.
Still, I think so. You should emphasize more on testing of it. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Our next presenter is Smita Gayatri. Smita?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes.
Very
yes.
good morning.
Yes. Yeah, you can begin with your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Very good morning to all. Myself, Smita Gayatri, working as assistant professor in Don Bosco Engineering College under the guidance of Usha and Dr. Usha Rani KR. My research paper is on analysis of impedance matching technique on broadband power line network topologies. So these are the contents. So these are the outlines: introduction, literature survey, methodology, result and discussion, and conclusion. Yeah, broadband power line communication. And digital communication over power line is an idea that dates back in the early 1920s. Since the utility of companies around the world has successfully used this technology for remote metering and control. The power grid to provide the broadband access, the residential customers, or the broadband distribution over last mile and last feet. The attractive feature of this idea is the presence of the vast infrastructure for power line distribution, enabling a penetration of the service that could be much higher than any other wide alternatives. The structure of the whole low voltage distribution grid includes outdoor power supply, cables, is most appropriate for internet access, offering last mile and last feet solution. Within the last mile domain, the telecom monopolies are still owner of the communication wires, but the last feet sees still a bottleneck and strong competition in the form of alternative link in most of desirable. For high-speed indoor networking, Powerline exhibits the unique feature to connect any point of interest with no need of few wires. The advantages of Powerline communications are the broadband access availability to all power points in-house, Guaranteed rate, unlike loss of rate due to shadowing effects, no concern about long-term effects of electromagnetic radiation inside house. So as I said, the broadband power line communication technology is used in various applications from high voltage network to low voltage network. As it is the only wired communication technology that is comparable with a wireless communication network, it works by injecting a modulated carrier wave into an electric cable from the transceivers. If you talk about what are the disadvantages which is there in the broadband power line communications, since power line channels is a harsh, noisy, and time-varying transmission media that is difficult to model. It is a frequency selective and affected by many impulse noise, such as if you categorize the impulse noise, there will be a color background noise and RF noise. The channel transfer function of the power line channel may vary abruptly when the topologies changes, that is when the devices are plugged in and out. Since as we know that the power line is connected with many bridge straps, most of the bridge straps are in the form of inductive loads. As this is accumulated with power line is accumulated with all these devices, whenever we are going to, because it is a dynamic one, as we vary the variations in this impedance mismatch, this causes it affects the channel communication. So these are the disadvantages which we find in broadband power line communications. So one of the challenge for BPLC, that is broadband power line communication, is the time, frequency, and the location dependency of the access impedance, which can cause severe impedance mismatch for the communication signal. Due to this, again, there is a degradation in the signal to noise ratio of the communication receivers and thus affects the transmission reliability. Due to the variable nature of the access impedance, a fixed matching circuit will be inefficient. So we are going with the impedance matching circuit at the transmitter side as well as the receiver side. The conventional matching circuit using a fixed passive elements are not effective due to the variability of the access impedance with time and location caused by time varying network loads and signal reflection in the power line. Impedance matching system, which includes actual matching circuitry both at the receiver side and the transmitter side. It includes a sensing circuit, a control circuit, and the matching circuits. So these are the explanation is given only the design conventional matching circuit. And one more concept which I want to include here is the loop estimation. So here there is the discontinuity in the loop can be detected by using two methods. One is SELT, that is single-ended loop testing, and DELT, double-ended loop testing. So under SELT, we have another two categories, that is CTDR and FDR, used to estimate power. So the SELT and DELT are used most probably in our telecommunication networks. So here CTDR and by using the same concept that can be incorporated in our power line communication. So these are the literature survey which have gone through the multi-port impedance matching technique for power line communication by Rodolphe. So according to him, he has been segregated. He is going to design the circuitry by using meta particle swarm optimization method, and it is efficient and robust. Okay. So and another paper which I have referred, and the method has been incorporated is on impedance matching in power line communication system by Marco. So according to him, he is able from this, he has been categorized into different three methods. In all the three methods, by using this, he can capable of getting the data rate around 1.53 gigabits per second and the probability of 80%. And the third method, the third paper which I have referred, an adaptive impedance matching system for vehicular power line communication. So in this, by using this method, is capable of getting 10 dB. The power gain of the channel is going to be 10 dB. Okay. So this is my methodology where we have to minimize the impedance mismatch. Once the impedance mismatch has been minimized, so the concept is we can able to get a better power gain. So in the proposed system, as it says, we are using a conventional matching circuitry. It consists of a matching circuit, a control unit, and a sensing unit. By using incorporation of all this system, we are able to detect the mismatch, and after detecting, we are going to compensate the mismatch. Once the impedance matching is being done, then we are able to get the maximum power gain at the output end. So this is what the concept of my proposed work. So here we are going to keep the system, the input impedance around 50 ohms. That is going to be the reference impedance. So we are going to maintain the same at the output term, output end, that is the receiver end. So here you can see the block diagram here. It consists of a matching coupler at both the receiver side and the transmitter side. So in the transmitter side, I'll go back to, I'll show the next slide so that it will be clear to you. The adaptive impedance matching system at the transmitter side, it is having the same blocks as we can see at the receiver side. So in the transmitter side, we're having measuring unit, control unit, and impedance matching unit, where the transmitter impedance is going to be ZT, and the desired impedance matching which we are going to do in order to maintain that, it's going to be Z conjugate. ZT indicates the transmitter side. Similarly, we're going to have the same unit at the receiver side, that is ZR and ZR conjugate. So in order to maintain the impedance match, this is complete design has been done. So here we'll go in detail about each unit. Measurement unit. Measurement unit consists of a sensing unit and interpretation unit, where the sensing unit is going to measure the
Dear
input and the...
presenter, sorry to interrupt you, but you have last 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. So by using this complete method, measuring unit is going to measure the parameters such as voltage and the current. By using this, we get what is the total power has been delivered to in the circuit. From this, we're going to get a parameter, that is power. As I said, we are going to make a measurement with respect to the power by design. Then we are going to send it to the interpretation unit, where it's going to take the channel function, where we are having the filter. Filter is a combination of all this R and C, that is a RC filter we are using here, the transfer function of which is mentioned as HLP, and the power which is obtained from this control unit is considered as PS. Then the actual power will be measured. Then we have a fuzzy logic circuit which gives whether the given impedance, the impedance will be of inductive, loads can be inductive or capacitive. So in order to make a segregation between the inductive and the capacitive, we have used this flip-flop, which identifies whether it is a capacitive load or the inductive load. By using this, then the impedance, as we know, the relation between the current and the voltage gives us the impedance. As I mentioned in the beginning, the impedance which we maintain is around 50 ohms. So we are, by this combination, we are trying to say that the characteristic impedance should be equal to 1, as we are considering in order to match the impedance. So once this ratio is equal to 1, then we can say that by using the Smith chart representation, if the circle, you can see the Smith chart representation here, we have going to make a segregation. If the value which is placed inside the circle, then you can find the two circles here, red and the blue color. The blue color says admittance, and the left side indicates the impedance. So if the value is placed outside, it is not belongs to the range. It is more than the required the impedance value. So we are trying to match that. So in order to try to match
Smita, it would be unfair for the other participants if we give you an extra time. You've already consumed 10 minutes. I'm really sorry. You need to conclude now.
Okay. So these are my results in which we are taken with and without matching techniques. These are the results which I have obtained. So how it has been affected my power gain. By using this method, I'm able to get a 10 dB gain. Okay. So these are the loop estimation. I have taken different bridge traps. These are the SNR profiles for upstream and downstreams. These are the capacity estimations. Okay. So through this method, I'm able to get maximum capacity power gain can be obtained. Even the capacity can be increased, and the bit rate around 100 megabits per second can be improved. So I'm very much thankful for IC for this conference, providing me an opportunity to present my paper. Thank you so much. These are my reference papers.
Yes, thank you so much, Smita. Thank you.
Which types of existing models are available? Because in Power Grid, lot of work is going on. So
yes,
can you compare?
Ma'am, they're using. Ma'am, can you repeat the question once again, ma'am? Little bit. I didn't get your question.
Which type of existing work are there at present? Because lot of work people are doing on this same topic. And how you can claim that? How you can claim that it will improve for betterment?
many fixed kind of circuits can be used in order to match this. In my case, what happens, since it's a power line is a harsh network and it's keep on, as this is a devices, the home devices which we are using. When we, example, if I take a fan, when you switch on the fan, definitely it affects my power line the data communication. So we have to use an adaptability. So we have to tune in such a way that wherever the variation going to observe, that can be minimized. So that adaptable kind of circuit we should use. Till now, we didn't find such fixed adaptable kind of circuitry till now. Only the fixed kind of networks has been used in order to compensate the variations in the power line channel. So one among that, by using this combination of a fuzzy logic algorithm, by using some digital circuitry and the combination of this passive element, so that we can make a change as there is a variation in the impedance that can be compensated by using this kind of circuitry. So till now, we have observed only the fixed kind of a topologies or the network will be used in order to compensate that. By using this kind of combination of this digital circuitry along with our passive elements, so we can compensate and we can adjust the impedance so that as the impedance will be matched, then the maximum power can be delivered at the receiver side. So this is again, indirectly it says that the maximum data rate can be increased in the power line channel. So this is what my...
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Smita. We'll move further with the other presenter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
RB Singh? Yes, ma'am. Yes, please. Yeah. He will be presenting on optimal allocation of distributed generation in order to improve the performance of power system networks. Yeah. RB Singh, are you able to hear me? Your voice is not audible to me. Hello? Yes, ma'am. RB Singh? RB Singh? Yes, I can view your screen. Can you just speak like, hello? Yes, ma'am. Your audio is not clear. RB Singh, what you can do is just come back and after a while, we'll start with another presentation. Till then, please sort your issue and come back again. Okay? We have Iman here.
Yes, ma'am.
Iman Chakrabarti.
I have. Yes, ma'am. Done.
1 second. So RB Singh, I'm just muting you just a minute. I think there's some audio problem with you. Just sort that and come back again. You will be presenting next. Okay? Iman?
Yes, ma'am.
You can hear me, right? I think you can begin with the presentation.
Okay,
You
sure.
will be presenting on customers' willingness to use new OTT media platforms in India, right?
Yes.
Yes, you can begin with the presentation. Please share your screen.
Yes. Again.
I'm still not able to view your screen.
Yeah, there is some issues. Share it.
Do we have the presenter of paper, cloud interface, social sky driver, optimized routing for future electric motor vehicles? Anyone by Shivanand C? Anyone by this paper, please? If any other presenters are here on behalf of the presenter. Okay. So Iman, what the issue is resolved or not? RB Singh? RB Singh? RB Singh? Are you here? Iman?
Excuse me, ma'am. Yeah, can I proceed?
Yes, please. Are you ready? Yeah, please share your
Yeah.
slide. Yeah, please share your slide. Faster, please.
Again, there is some issue. Couldn't share it. I don't know.
Iman, what's the issue? Sorry, participants, there is some technical problem for the presenters. Please cooperate. Iman, and are we seeing anyone here? Please, we have parallel sessions next. We have to do faster, please, or else I'll have to cancel your presentation then. Are we seeing?
Just give me 2 minutes. This is Iman. Just give me.
Our result topic is optimal
Okay, Arvi Singh, you can continue.
optimal plot our generator in some area. I typically state that distribution generation can be the generator of generation of electricity by facility substantially smaller than central generating plant, usually 10 megawatt or less, so as to allow interconnection at point in power system and distribution resources. There are 4 types of DG: type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. In this research work, I use type 1 DG, which is capable of delivering any active power such as photovoltaic, micro turbine, fuel cells, which are integrated to main grid with the help of inverter. How type 2 DG, according to current situation fit code, the photovoltaic can be in sometimes are required to provide reactive power as well as active power. Type 2 DG capable of delivering both active power and reactive power DG unit based on synchronous machine cogeneration and the model from under the study of. Type 3 DG capable of delivering only reactive power synchronous compensator such as gas turbine or example of this type and operate at 0 power factor. Type 4 DG capable of delivering active power but consuming reactive power mainly induction generator, which are using in wind for come under this category. The technique we use for optimal regulation of DG or particle swarm optimization technique. Particle swarm optimization is a population-based optimization method first introduced by Kelly and Ewald in 1995. Was inspired by social behavior of bird flocking and fish schooling. PSO is one of the university computational technique has been developed through simulation of simplified social number models. Optimal elevation of distribution generation in order to improve the performance of power system network. The voltage stability and power losses are main concern for safe operation of power system network recently due to their stress operation for increasing electrical power loads. Voltage instability, voltage collapse are inevitable, which are main problem in power system network. Different type of DG are optimal site at optimal location. The overall power losses are reduces and voltage profile of power system network is improved. The particle swarm optimization technique has been used for optimal allocation of distribution generation of optimal value to reduce overall power losses and maintain voltage profile. The proposed methodology are tested on IEEE 9 bus, IEEE 14 bus, 24 bus, and IEEE 13 bus. When we use IEEE 9 bus, the results are very interesting. When we use PSO technique for 9-bus system, the voltage without DG and with DG, there is a difference between the voltage profile. When we use DG, the voltage profile are improved very much, whereas without DG, the voltage profile are not so much. At the same time, the power loss, which is the main concern for operation of power system network. When we use DG with optimal size, the power loss is reduced about 40.67%, which is very much useful for power efficient for use of power in electrical power in power system network. You can see the graph of branch losses in power system network. The branch losses when you DG, which is designed in this graph, is by red color, which is very much where we do not use DG, but when we use DG of optimal side at optimal location, the power loss in power system network in different branches are reduced very much. Without using the power loss or DG, the total power loss is 4.955 megawatt, whereas when we use optimal DG at optimal side, it is reduced to 2.94 megawatt, which is about 50.67% lower than without DG. The results for 24-bus system is also very interesting. The voltage profile of power system network are enhanced when we use DG, whereas the power loss in this case also reduced very much, but when we use DG, the total power loss is 1.585, whereas without DG it is 2.44 megawatt, which is 25% larger than without DG. When we use IEEE 9-bus system for our experiment, the power losses are.
Abhi Singh, just please conclude in 2 minutes. You just have 1 to 2 minutes left.
By using DG in power system network at optimum size at optimum location, the power losses are reduced very much, whereas at the same time the voltage profile is improved. So in by using type 1 DG, the power losses are reduced and at the same time voltage profile are improved. In distribution power system network, the power losses and maintaining voltage profile is a difficult task. In this paper, we use partly for complex techniques for allocating the capacity of DG and site selection of DG. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, RB Singh. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do we have Imon here?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Are you ready now?
Yes.
Thank you, RB Singh. Thank you for presentation. Please start sharing your screen, Imon.
Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, it's visible now. Yeah.
Okay.
Start.
Good morning. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. This is Imon, a PhD student of Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. Our study is about consumers' willingness to use new OTT media platforms in India. Some of us are regular user of Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hotstar for the entertainment purposes. This media platform is recognized as over-the-top, or more famously called as OTT. So it is delineated as a distribution of digital media content using the internet over a public network. With the development of the mobile technology and expansion of the internet, users can watch the digital media content at any time and place on smartphone devices. Compared to the traditional broadcasting, OTT has lots of variety and flexibility. So OTT market is highly competitive and is growing broadly. In India, the compound annual growth rate of OTT market is 30%. The market will reach $5 billion by 2023. The OMP usage is depending on the number of factors like subscription, content, supporting infrastructure. The OTT service offers in the three ways. One is paid services, where user can only enjoy the content by paying monthly subscription fees. The second is entirely free, where the viewers need to bear with some ads. And the third one is the freemium model, where some content is free, but premium content is available via paid subscription. So given that the research is exploring the willingness to use new OTT media platforms, which is briefly abbreviated as UNO, the results provide the factors that influence the consumer decision use or not use the new OTT platforms. And the study finding might assist the OTT platforms providers, practitioners, and academicians for best practice and decision making towards the better consumer acceptance. So the critical aspects of new OTT platform should be considered for their survival in the competitive market. The survival of fittest, a concept of Charles Darwin evolution theory, assists in conceptualizing this study. So according to the theory, the evolution mechanism can be conceptually within the variation, inheritance, selection, and threat. So using this concept of evolutionary theory, survival of the fittest, it is enabled here to examine the factors to direct the new OTT platform for their survival in the competitive market. So the variables for the questionnaires are taken from the literature on OTT media entertainment and digital platforms. The variables are contextualized according to the study objectives and Indian context. The data was collected using the survey tool, and a structured questionnaire was developed in English with both open-ended and closed-ended questions. The questionnaire survey was captured in Microsoft Excel sheet and imported into the SPSS software for statistical analysis. So the study respondents comprises of customers above 15 years. The first group bracket is 15 to 20 years and last above 60 years. So a total of 85,000 respondents were conducted online, and the study receives 1,310 complete responses after reviewing the incomplete responses. Survey data covers 11 Indian states. Through majority data comes from the two states, Gujarat and Maharashtra, where most of the respondents coming from the major metro cities. So let's move to the findings. So the figure shows that the 79% of the users who are OTT media platform subscribers are willing to use new OTT platforms, whereas the 67% of the people who are currently not subscribing to any of the OTT platforms are willing to use a new OTT. So another side, the paid OTT media platform subscribed users showed higher interest to new platform compared to the free subscribed users. So bottom of the figure shows that willing to use new OTT platform interest of users, 82% of the users with paid interest, whereas 70% of the users with free OTT media platform subscriptions. So the special contained influence the user to interest in willing to use new platform. Those users who like the regional content, they prefer willing to use new platform compared to those users who are less prefer to the regional content. So top figure shows that 86% of the people who are having preference for the regional content are interested in willing to use new platform compared to the 59% of the users who prefer the less to choose the regional content. In terms of the time usage, those who are spend 90 minutes or have higher preference to willing to use the new OTT media platforms. So the user age is directly related to the preference of willing to use new platform. Lower the age of the user had the preference to use. The user age group between 15 to 20 years, where 80% of the user are interested, whereas between 22 to 30 years, the user interest is 84%. And subsequently, age group preferred willing to use is decreasing. The percentage of the user for particular language is reflected as a medium rather than the preference, as most of the user preference for their mother tongue shows a higher preference to willing to use. However, the overall data shows that the user prefer regional content and mother tongue as a medium of entertainment. However, mother tongue has less impact on willing to use. The limitation of this mother tongue is overcome through technology by making entertainment content available in popular language of a nation. So this is the conceptual model. So here the willing to use new platform and OMP usage influenced by multiple variables. So from this proposed conceptual model is derived into three parts as shown in this figure. The first part discusses the 5 variables influencing the usage behavior. The second part highlights the variables influencing the current OTT media platform usage and willing to use new OTT platforms. And the third part is the interaction between the current users as well as willing to use new platform, including the interrelationship between the variables. So talking about the study contributions, the finding depicts the users significantly favor the live broadcasting services, including the regional content. In terms of subscription, free OTT media platform has the highest popularity, albeit the paid users are more interested in the new platform to trade off their subscription services. So the present paper contributes on the theoretical as well as practical front. Theoretically, this paper shows the usage of evolutionary framework in digital platform for the survival context, but more in-depth theoretical grounding is desired. Nevertheless, for practitioners, this study provides the insights into the establishment for continuous of the OTT media services. The present study is not without limitations. So the study only considers the variable extensively found in the literature for OTT media usage. Therefore, a further deeper investigation of consumer from various income groups, varying demographics,
sorry for the interruption, dear presenter. Just 2 minutes left to conclude.
Yeah, sure. So varying demographics and lifestyles can produce more insights about the OTT media platform in developing country context. So in conclusion, in the initial phase, OTT media platform should follow the freemium model with region and age-specific content. In long terms, OTT platform evolved to have bundle of media content to serve multiple user preference. The study intend to further investigation and nullify the falsifiable hypothesis by more theoretical underpinning with the empirical data. Therefore, the work encourages more empirical studies that explore the evolutionary theory and survival of the fittest concept. It is the survival aspects of the OTT media platform. So thank you so much for listening to me.
Can you connect your work and big data?
Currently, it is not happening. We are just collecting the survey things, and we will formulating a logistic model with that to prove or validate our statistical model, which I propose model, a framework I have proposed here.
Okay.
Thank you, Imon. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we have come to the end of the session. I sincerely thank our authors for their excellent presentation and contribution in this session, and all our participants for being a part of this international conference. I hope this session was informative enough. All the presenters would be getting their digital certificates through email within 2 working days. Further, all the papers have already forwarded to the Springer board. This publication will be live within 5 to 6 months. Kindly cooperate with the team ICT Forest 2021. I also thank our session chair, Naresh sir. Token of appreciation for you, sir. Thank you so much. And Priyanka ma'am.
Thank you, Risha.
Thank you. Deepika here, sir. I'm Deepika.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Priyanka ma'am. Thank you everyone for
Thank
the.
you, madam.
Thank you for your
It
valuable
was nice
questions.
session. Nice.
Yeah, I kindly request you to on your cameras for a quick snapshot. Could you please on your cameras, please? Just a minute. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.